Next on our agenda today is talking about music festivals. I tried to get Alex Barnett and a couple of the other judge executives kind of put together a routine today going into this discussion of music festivals, but I didn't have any luck, so I apologize for that. We are going to hear about some popular music festivals in Kentucky and how events not only showcase some of the amazing talent that we have in our state, but how these events can be drivers of economic development through tourism. To help lead us in the discussion is our moderator, Steve Gold. He's a Henderson County attorney and also the co-chair of the W.C. Handy Blues and Barbecue Festival that is held in Henderson County. Steve is joined by Tiffany. Yeah. Were y'all from Harlan County? No, okay. Yeah. Also joined is Tiffany Finley, who is the executive director of the Masters Musicians Festival out of Pulaski County.
Where's my love?
Yeah.
No love for Pulaski.
Come on.
Yeah.
Where's Pulaski County?
You do have some love down there in Pulaski County, Tiffany. Also, we have David Helmers, the producer of the Railbird Festival held in Fayette County. At this time, I'll turn it over to you, Steve. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. All right, well, welcome. How many music festival attendees do we have here? How many of you all have been to music festivals?
All right.
Okay, quite a few. How many of you all have spent money at any of those music festivals? You buy the t-shirt, everything? Okay, well, that's what we're going to talk about, how really a music festival is economic development. It's not just a big party. And the three of us represent three different types of festivals throughout the state. And, we have so many great festivals around, but I think we've got a pretty good mix of the three different types of festivals here. Well, there are more than three different types, but three good representative types. So first, I want to talk to Tiffany about Master Musicians Festival. Tell us about what that is.
Okay, well, like they said, my name is Tiffany Finley, and I've been the executive director for the Master Musicians Festival for the last, going on 13 years now. In 1994, a bunch of our citizens got together to put on a music festival to honor the greats, address the issue of not having arts and culture in our community, but also to raise money to buy a guitar for one of our local residents that couldn't afford a guitar. Fast forward almost 30 years, we are one of the longest established music festivals in the state of Kentucky. We strive to offer big city programming at a discounted cost for our low and moderate income residents, but we also want to attract our tourism folks by offering them a more boutique, smaller festival experience. We have had acts like Willie Nelson, Counting Crows, the late John Prine. We just had Blues Traveler, which was one of our biggest festivals to date. We are made up of a 12-member, all-volunteer board of directors, and each person on my board it's not a fluff board. They have a very strong role in making sure the festival happens. We actually call ourselves the Suits and Hippies because it's made up of about, some bankers and lawyers, but also some brewers in town and some baristas. And we know that it takes the creative side, but a festival is a business and you have to run it as so. Other than that, we have a $300,000 budget that's made up of mostly ticket sales, beer, merch, lots of sponsorship dollars to be able to keep our prices low. And then recently in the past year, just with all the uncertainty, we decided to start doing charitable gaming. So my group goes to the bingo hall twice a week and we raise money. And every time I'm there and I hate it, I just remember that this means Willie Nelson or Tyler Childers gets to come to my festival.
Well, how much is a ticket?
Our ticket is $65 now for the weekend, but kids 12 and under are free.
It's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So as far as is there a theme for Master Musicians Festival? Do you have certain genre?
Yeah, so we lean mostly to now, it's like the new term of Americana theme, but really it's, we want to expose to people that there's a lot more out there than what you hear on the radio. There's these amazing musicians that travel all over the United States that you may not even have heard of, but it might be one of the biggest things out there. So we really try to just open your mind to other genres, and we always try to have a blues, and hopefully I get to work with you in the future for some new blues artists, and maybe a world spot, and a lot of local and regional bands as well.
Good deal.
Yeah.
So you have a mix of the big names and then the up and comers as well.
Yeah, and I think our festivals kind of become known. When you go there, you may not know anybody on the lineup, maybe just the headliner. But if you come, you're going to see the next big thing. So, people wear it like a badge of honor that they got to see Tyler Childers at 1 o'clock on a Saturday on our stage. So you always know that we have good taste in music, and we're going to expose that to you.
Absolutely. And it's got a heck of a reputation around the state.
Yeah, thank you.
David, tell us a little bit about the Railbird Festival.
Sure, I'd be happy to. My name is David Helmers. I live in Lexington, Kentucky. I've been there about 26, 27 years. Grew up in Western Kentucky in Owensboro. And several years ago, before Railbird, I produced a very small festival called Moon Tower with some partners, very grassroots effort, a one-day festival, 2 stages. And I kind of cut my teeth producing that event. And in 2017, I went and sat down with the head of our Convention Visitor Bureau, President Mary Quinn Raymer, Visit Lex, and said, I have an idea. I think I've learned enough that I have a formula for bringing a bona fide national destination event in the form of a new festival to Lexington and Fayette County. And was there interest? I think, this is a privately operated festival, but you cannot do these things without the support of your community. And fortunately, she shared my vision, saw that vision, and became my advocate and champion. Railbird is hosted, or has been hosted the last 2 years that we've done it on the grounds at Keeneland. And we differentiate Railbird from other festivals around the country by really embracing what is part and parcel of Central Kentucky. So it's equine, bourbon, music, and we really try and celebrate that. Our inaugural event in 2019 had 15,000 people attend a day. In 2020, like a lot of major events, we weren't able to have Railbird, but we came back this August. We grew by over 100%. We had 32,000 attendees a day. We had 3 stages, and it really is a showcase for what we think is the Central Kentucky brand. And so we have single barrel bourbon and a 10,000 square foot activation that is the Rick House, where people can get a taste of great Kentucky bourbon. We had an area called the Lucky Day Plaza where people could bet on simulcast races from Saratoga and Del Mar. And we showcase national artists, but we also have a 3rd stage that really is an opportunity for local and regional artists, some of the favorites who are from from Kentucky and Central Kentucky, to play and share a bill with bands like the Dave Matthews Band and My Morning Jacket and some Leon Bridges and some of the other headliners. So it's been a fantastic event. Over 50% of our attendees this year were from outside Kentucky. They're traveling and spending their time and their money in Central Kentucky. And believe it or not, we have people who've not been to the horse races before, had never been to Keeneland before, some who'd never really tasted bourbon before or celebrated bourbon and bourbon culture. So we're bringing people here, we're showing them what we think is the best of Kentucky, and I think there are opportunities for that across the state.
I'll tell you a little bit about the WC Handy Blues and Barbecue Festival. We're a little bit different in that we're a completely free festival, and we're nonprofit, and we're run by all volunteers. And one of the volunteers you just saw up on the screen there earlier was my county judge, who's right in front of me, Judge Brad Schneider, who will get up and do the crowd shots and get the crowd going to introduce some bands. And we're awful glad to have a good partnership with our county. But it's a free festival, and it's completely volunteer. I see Bruce Farmer back there, also one of our members. About 30 years ago, a lady named Marcia Eblin was applying for the job of our tourism director. And she said, I see a gap in our calendar in June, and we really need something there. And so she went to the library, did some research, and found that W.C. Handy, the father of the blues, if you ever go down to Beale Street, there's a Handy Park right there on Beale Street in Memphis to celebrate W.C. Handy and what he did, not just to write blues music, but also to publish it. He was one of the most prolific publishers of music for many years. He lived in Henderson for about 10 years. The story goes that in 1892, he and his band were coming up from Alabama, and they broke down somewhere between Henderson and St. Louis. And they heard that there was work in Evansville, Indiana. We're right across from Evansville. And so he got a lot of work playing barbecue festivals or barbecue events in backyards and things like that, and met his wife. Something else that Henderson is famous for is beautiful women. So he met a beautiful woman in Henderson, and he married Elizabeth Price from Henderson. So we said, wait a second, we've got the father of the blues. We need something around Father's Day. So she began this festival. And it started out basically with a couple of people picking and grinning on the back of a flatbed truck. And now we are up to major professional staging, sound and lights, jumbotrons, whole 9 yards, and it's something that like they've said, it is a year-round production, and trying to come up with an idea of how to get all the people doing different things, the logistics, the booking, the bands, all of those things. It's hard to have volunteers do that, but we're very lucky to have that. We've talked about going to paid type staff. Have you recently made that choice, right?
Yeah, my history, actually, I worked for the Pulaski County Judge Executive for, I think, like 10 years. And there was a time in the festival, I think it was like the 17th year, they fell on some hardship, and they didn't know how they were going to go on. Their paid director was going to leave. And they basically came to me. I had asked them if I could volunteer, and they were like, sure, you can volunteer to run the whole festival. So they made me president the first day I was on the board, and I was young and whatever. I was like, let's do this. So I did that for 12 years, and we had a pretty crazy year, our 2019 year, when a storm came, and it really shook our festival, and we were in pretty dire straits after that, but we kind of decided it's like make or break time. We're either going to have to hire a full-time director or maybe even shut our doors. And then they hired me, and then COVID happened. So
now, is your festival set up as a nonprofit?
It is. It's a nonprofit.
Now, yes. David, yours is for-profit, right?
It is. It's a for-profit partnership. As I said, I met with our head of our Convention Visitor Bureau and to kind of gauge the appetite for Lexington and the community to have a festival, and got a green light from them, kind of set the table, walked into and met with the COO of Keeneland and asked if I could have a music festival there, kind of bracing myself, thinking I might get thrown right out onto Versailles Road. But they also were willing to kind of let their hair down and explore that. And that started a process of really me reaching out to and recruiting the very best production partner that I could find. And honestly, it's no different than recruiting, Toyota or another company to come and invest lots of dollars in your community. And that's how we did it with Railbird. We ended up partnering with AC Entertainment out of Knoxville, Tennessee. AC Entertainment founded Bonnaroo 20 years ago. It presents about 1,000 concerts a year. They're part of the conglomerate Live Nation. And they, along with other companies, we brought them to Lexington. I took them on distillery tours. I took them to Keeneland to the races. And we talked about that we thought this was a fertile ground to create a festival, and as I said before, differentiating it from other festivals by embracing what was uniquely Central Kentucky. And I did a decent sales pitch. We had different companies vying for that opportunity, worked together, and then built a partnership. And from there, went out and started partnering with other stakeholders. It is a for-profit operation for them. They are in this to create an event that generates money. But in 2021, we generated over $100,000 for nonprofit partners in Central Kentucky. So part of our model is that every ticket sold includes dollars that go to nonprofit partners in Central Kentucky. So we're really proud of what we've done in a very short period of time. Our second iteration of Railbird was profitable. In the festival business, that's not an easy task. And as I said, we had people coming from all 50 states to Central Kentucky. Our hotels were over 90% capacity on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. During a period of time which is otherwise not busy. In scheduling these things and working with the community as an economic driver to create an event like this, in Lexington, we don't want to overlap with the Wildcats playing. We don't want to overlap with the Keeneland race meet. So we're trying to find a time where it's meaningful to us economically to have that event. And then, I think all of us spend a lot of time trying to educate and inform stakeholders in the community that this is a big party, but it's not just a big party.
Exactly.
We can have a really good time, but it also can be very beneficial to the community, both in bringing in dollars and exporting the brand that is that county or that community and what's unique about where we live and work.
And I'd like to get into that a little more because, each of us, our festivals are a little different. Ours is nonprofit with no ticket sales. We have nonprofit with ticket sales and then for-profit with ticket sales. But all of those end up being economic drivers for our communities. Mm-hmm. And some of the data that you're seeing up here on the screen is from the Arts and Enterprise report that's done every few years by Americans for the Arts. And significantly, KACo is a partner in Americans for the Arts. So this is not some industry group doing this. This is National Association of Counties and several other partners that are putting this data together. And it's pretty solid on what they're showing, the kind of effects that not just the ticket sales, but what people spend, the hotels, the gas, everything that gets spent within a community. Tiffany, I know you all look into this and follow this on your own, right?
Yeah, locally we, this past July we had our biggest year yet at 7,500 people. Our occupancy rate for our hotels for our weekend was 88%, but there's a Smith report that you can look at, and our occupancy was larger than any other city in the state of Kentucky for our festival weekend. And that includes all the big cities as well. And I guess it's like 75% of our attendees are not from Pulaski County. And that little map that you've probably been seeing on the screen, it shows where all of our attendees are from. But 40% of them are out of the state, coming to our small town in Somerset, Kentucky. So.
That's one of the things you saw up there too. There are two maps. Tiffany had a map, and then that's ours. And when we had to create the second map to show the people that were traveling in from Europe, we always do a thing, and Judge Schneider loves to do this. We'll give a T-shirt to the people that came from the farthest away, and when we had to separate that into domestic and international, we're like, wait a second, we've arrived. And then sometimes you have to figure out, okay, is Australia farther than Japan? And, they both ended up getting T-shirts,
That's awesome.
So if they're going to come that way, we're going to give them a T-shirt.
Absolutely.
But that's what we find. And I'm sure you get national and international folks as well.
That's right. I think year one, we had 49 states represented in attendees. And then we hit 50 this year. I was going to drive to South Dakota and give somebody a ticket if I had to hit 50 states, but we did have all 50 states. I think we had 11 foreign countries in 2019 represented. This year it was a little trickier with COVID and having, so I didn't follow that as closely, but we do look closely at the demographics. And when you have people coming from Boulder, Colorado and Austin, Texas, and certain cities that have a lot going on in terms of arts and culture, and a huge population coming up from Nashville to Lexington, Kentucky to see music, you're doing something right. And the music festival itself and our lineup, look, Dave Matthews is the lure, but we're trying to hook them on what we have to offer right in Lexington. So, horse racing, bourbon, great food, amazing hospitality. We have 40 food vendors at Railbird this year. Over half of them are from Lexington. So people are getting exposed to hot browns, and they're getting exposed to country ham, and we're trying to bring them in. They may be a huge Dave Matthews Band fan. When they leave there, we want them to be a Lexington, Kentucky fan, and ideally come back and spend more time in our community. Kentucky is as hospitable a place as I've ever been. I mean, I think we have great state pride. I heard the governor talking about, proud to be a Kentuckian, and I think we're all really proud of the community that we have. If we build an event there that really marries itself with what's unique about our community, it's easy to sell, it's easy to be passionate about, and we can bring people here and they're going to have a really good time.
I think that's something important to hit on, the kind of satellite activities besides what just happens on the stage, right? And I think that's, each of these festivals has some sort of hook there to ground it in its local flavor. And I think that's a really important thing. What kind of things are you all doing with Master Music?
I think ours is a little backwards because we have Lake Cumberland, who's already bringing in 4 million visitors. But the problem is when they get on that lake, they're never coming off. So we want them to come into town and see what we have to offer. So with the festival, we do get a lot of lake traffic that will come in, maybe for a Willie Nelson to check out. And then we let out in time, and there's always this amazing jam. Like a lot of the bands will go back to our brewery, Jarfly Brewing, upstairs, and it's just this really special community of musicians that we've created, and that makes them want to come back and play our town.
Absolutely, and that's one thing that we hear a lot as well from both the bands and people that come in is what David talked about, is the hospitality.
Yes.
They remember, especially now that we've been doing it for 30 years, they remember, like, we've been to a whole lot of other festivals, but we always remember this one because Kentucky seems to treat musicians and attendees right. And that's a big deal because we have a great product to sell in Kentucky, don't we?
Yeah.
Now, we've got a lot of county officials here. How is it that okay, if they're sitting there thinking, we don't really have a festival going on in our county, or we have a festival, but we're not really sure how to partner. How can counties partner with a festival to benefit everyone?
Yeah. Well, I'll start. Well, first of all, the first thing I would say is money. Like we know, with my festival, I feel like we know what we're doing. We can compete with some of these larger festivals, not quite as much as Railbird, but we can compete, but we have to have the money. Bands cost a lot of money. I said our budget was $300,000, but a headliner like Willie Nelson is in the $100,000 range just to come for one day to your festival. So, we do a very good job of trying to negotiate and try to, like we said, get the artists as they're coming up. But money is the most important thing for us. But then also just being good stewards and being fans of the festival. Support us. If you don't have the money in your budget, maybe offer in-kind services, like help with the infrastructure. Help, I know our county guys will come and help us do some of the work, like take, even if it's just like a crazy errand, like we needed a trailer from Lexington. The county judge let them go up there and get a trailer and come back for us. So, but really just making sure you cultivate those relationships, and if there's anything that they can do in kind, maybe with inmates or anything like that.
David, what kind of support do you get, and what kind of support do you need from local government?
Yeah, I think it's a true public-private partnership that we've managed to create in Lexington. That first conversation I had over a cup of coffee with the president of our Convention Visitor Bureau, I was honestly asking, do you guys want me to pursue this? Do you care? Are you in support of it? Or are you going to be a not in my backyard. We don't really need that here. We do what we do, and we're going to keep doing that. The fact that they were so willing and supportive, I mean, we were checking boxes that were important to them anyway in terms of celebrating and exporting what was important to our community. But that partnership has been key throughout the whole development of that. And we worked very closely, and as I said, it's like recruiting a company. I mean, we worked hand in hand to recruit some of the very best production companies in the world to come and produce an event there. And every step of the way, from the name to the branding to the partnerships, have been about showcasing and helping our business community. We had 10 single barrel bourbons. My wife has finally figured out that when I'm going and doing barrel tasting, to do barrel picks, that, and I'm calling it work, that I'm really just playing hooky and getting away with that.
Do you need any help with that?
We have, great bourbon partnerships, great equine partnerships, great nonprofit partnerships, great hospitality, and we have developed a trust with the community, because they see that we're scheduling this in a way that when it finishes at 11 p.m. and we have shuttle buses taking people off site and we're dropping them off downtown, they're going to do record business over the weekend. We have restaurateurs who are telling us that that was the biggest weekend they've ever had for brunch. We want people to get out and celebrate that community, and it's just an ongoing partnership and communication, making sure we understand what the community wants out of this event. And making sure that they understand, what we need to make this event go.
I think it's important to have those business leaders and community leaders that are on board, knowing that arts tourism is economic development. All of those times, so many of us, especially in smaller counties, it seems like we're either trading our dollars around all the time, or we're exporting them to the closest big city. And when you are bringing people into your community that are spending those tourism dollars there, that's a time where we actually get to import dollars into a smaller county, and that's really a big deal. And our festival is very blessed to have support from both our city and our county. We've got our PVA Andrew Powell's on our board. Our magistrate Keith Berry ends up volunteering a whole lot of times. We've got our county judge, our coroner. We've got all kinds of folks involved on our committee. But we also have a lot of help from like our recycling. They'll come out and make sure we have enough recycling bins. The police, we have a partnership with our city. They don't charge us to have the police come and make sure that everything's safe. We have EMTs. There are a lot of those in-kind things that Tiffany was talking about, that we're able to work with them where there's not a particular or particularly large cost to the city or to the county of those, but it is something that if we didn't have it as a nonprofit, the festival wouldn't exist. So, I think that's really important. There's some ways that even if you don't have a lot of money out of your budget to be able to give to support a festival, or if there's not some way that some percentage of, other ARPA money or whatever might be able to go to a nonprofit festival or something like that. Even if that doesn't exist, there are ways that counties can be very, very helpful to festivals. And one thing, we do surveys at our festival because we don't do tickets, so we can't get great demographic information without just going out and going to someone in their chair and saying, "Can I ask you a few questions?" And the good news is, for a blues festival, the blues is not super hot with young people, believe it or not. We do great between 18 and 23, 24. They'll go to anything where there's live music, and that's great. And we get a lot of them hooked. But generally, about 60% of our attendees are 45 and up. And they tend to be a little more affluent. And they tend to come from further away. About 75% of our attendees are from more than 25 miles away. And what they tell us is that at the festival, they spend an average of about $27. And in the community, they spend an average of almost $73. And that is a big deal when that $73 comes in. And when we translate that, just that spending that they do, our festival, put together by a bunch of volunteers, the economic equivalent of that is just direct spending from our festival. It's almost 10 full-time employees. That would be the equivalent of having a business that had 10 full-time employees. And then with the spending that's done by the attendees, it gets it up to 96 full-time employees. And so most of us would all agree, if we could land a business that had 100 new employees in town, that would be something we would like to do, right? That's. Hey, I understand today's filing day. We'd all love to say, hey, we just got a new, 100 employee business, and that's something that it's not easy to wrap your head around. But you spend a lot of money locally, just on your direct spending, right?
Absolutely.
Staging, sound, and lights.
Yes.
How much is your budget for your festival?
It's in the millions of dollars. I mean, we have artists who are seven-figure headliners to present, and I know that's sometimes hard to believe, but it's a major undertaking, but it is done in partnership with all the stakeholders that you mentioned. We're able to have Keeneland seasonal employees work for an extra week to 10 days. That's important to them. We're, as I mentioned, restaurants and bars. We partner with local breweries. We partner with a long list of businesses who act as sponsors, but then activate, on that site. And our build out is a 10-day build. Our main stage involves cranes and is on a field that has a capacity of 30,000 people, all viewing the main headliners at once. So it's a pretty Herculean undertaking. It's a long way from where I started in 2016, producing a one-day festival with 2 stages that popped up, and we had 12 acts, and it was me and really 2 other people doing everything from production, stage, sound, and light, to artist hospitality, to booking, to transportation and driving folks around town. That was a great start for me because it was kind of soup to nuts. It was Festival 101, and I walked out of that experience poorer in many respects, but richer for the experience. And and that led to kind of evolving into what Railbird is. But it does have a significant economic impact, directly and indirectly. Meaning directly, we're paying people to work throughout that period, and then indirectly, the economic benefit that pours over to our restaurants and hotels and bars and all kinds of businesses. We have a craft activation where makers curated by us, selling locally made stuff, and they do tens of thousands of dollars worth of business over that 2-day festival. So it is very economically significant in the impact that it has. And just like recruiting a company that's going to employ people year round, we do that in kind of a micro window of 10 days of building, 2 days of a festival, and a week or so of tear down and clearing out of there. But we feel like it's significant, and we're reaping the benefits of that.
Well, and I want to talk a little bit, we're selling festivals here, but we also need to talk about the flip side of it. We've talked about how counties can be involved in supporting festivals with a direct investment and with in-kind investment. Counties can also set up, counties and cities can set up an atmosphere that is conducive to good festivals too. You want responsible festivals. There have been a few headlines around the state of some festivals that haven't gone well, and those happen nationally all the time. And like David was talking about, it's important to get people that know what they're doing to do this. One thing, and this is where I'll put my county attorney hat on a little bit. Henderson County, several years ago, was gifted a new park. It was a reclaimed surface mine area. It was about 500 acres. And of course, music festival guy says this would be a great place for a music festival. No trees, great line of sight. But then we had to figure out, okay, we need to write an ordinance that would encourage people to, if they're going to have a large festival here, to have something in a safe and responsible way. You've got to think about things like a safety plan. make sure there's security there, make sure there are emergency services, make sure there are enough toilets, make sure there are other things like that out there. And so I think it's important to get with your county attorney if you don't have a large events ordinance, to put one together that is going to give you some amount of, not necessarily control, but approval, where they can sit down with your sheriff and say, okay, this is what's going to be going on. How are we not going to overtax the sheriff's department? How are we going to, if there was a fire somewhere, how are people going to be able to get out safely? What sort of safety things do you all have in place?
Well, we actually were not, we always had a safety plan, but it was, we were kind of in that mindset of, oh, it's a music festival, this is all fun. And, we just had so many good years. But like I had mentioned earlier, in 2019, we had booked Jason Isbell to be our headliner, which we thought was the biggest thing ever. We had just come off of booking John Prine, so we were like, he's a major artist when it comes to music festivals. But we, the festival went beautifully. The weather was great all weekend. And then about 20 minutes before he went on stage, this huge storm broke out of nowhere. We had people running, towards basically the tents, which was pretty stupid on all of our parts, I would say. Just looking and seeing all those people under the tents, and they were flying up in the air. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is not fun and games anymore. We have to have a plan in the future. Luckily, no one got hurt. We did have to cancel the festival, and if the venue has to cancel the festival, you still have to pay your headliner. So we paid him a six-figure check, and he rode off into the sunset, and then we were kind of stuck with that, with the aftermath. But the whole point of me telling you that is that now we know that is super important to have, and I think it's a great idea to talk to the county attorney and get an ordinance in place. But going forward, we've had the best security plans laid out, and we have meetings with our, the police and the EMS, and just make sure the communication is on point, that everybody knows what to do. We started having because obviously when you got Live Nation, they are corporate, so they know the things to do and say and announce over the intercom. So, we really had to do some digging to figure out what the protocols were, and, and fixed all of that this past year.
We've had to learn a lot of
it's a lot of hard lessons, yes.
And frankly, we one of the things we had to do, since we're in a public park that is right next to streets, we, over the last few years, have made the decision to essentially harden the target by putting up some additional concrete barriers, like those big, heavy things that you see where somebody could not drive a car into a whole crowd of people or something like that. Because previously we just had some barrels and some chain between the barrels or something like that. But you have to constantly be adapting and thinking about those things. Now you're at Keeneland, so it's already set up a little bit, but what sort of changes do you all have to make to have that many people there?
Right. So we've had the festival at Keeneland, and when we first announced we were having it at Keeneland, I think everyone assumed we were having it at the infield, out at inside the track, which was not the case. We take over an area of about 40 acres that is behind Keene Barn and Entertainment Center. It's an area where they have Picnic with the Pops called the Meadow, and an area now where they do tailgating called the Hill. But you're essentially, as a festival producer, you're child-proofing 40 acres. I mean, we put a full perimeter around that. We had a tower that erected to keep a view over the whole festival grounds. There are controlled entry and exit points. There are breakaway exit barriers, exits within the barrier in the event that there is an emergency evacuation that's required. We have contracts with weather monitoring companies where we're monitoring lightning strikes within 20 miles, 10 miles, 8 miles, 5 miles, and that results in a different code being called. We have departments. Everyone has walkie-talkies. It's a pretty big undertaking, particularly with the scale of event that we're doing now with Railbird. Prior to that, as an independent guy, whose wife and another person were putting on this festival, it was a little bit different, but ultimately it's the same goal. You're trying to produce an event that is fun for everyone involved and safe for everyone involved. So safety first was always the mantra while we were producing the old festival, Moon Tower, and Railbird. And on a smaller scale, that really involves a lot of transparency and a lot of communication. So Railbird is on private property on the grounds of Keeneland. Moon Tower was at Masterson Station Park, a public park. So we worked hand in hand with the community. We made sure that we were in compliance with any obligations and requirements that the city and the county put on. And that also included, any vendors that we had, if they're stage, sound, and light production folks, that they were properly licensed and insured, that they were, that they were experienced in what they were doing. So there's overlap of insurance, and that also, those insurance guidelines dictate some policies and procedures. As you're getting those policies in place, you have to read them, understand what they're saying, and then you can't have free ingress and egress, unless your policy allows for that and you have controls where people are coming and going from the perimeter. Those are things you learn in the process, but you want to be careful. I mean, this is not a backyard barbecue. And we want it to feel like it and feel fun, but we also, first things first, and safety always is.
I love your idea of child-proofing.
Yeah.
Because that's honestly what you're doing. Because even if you don't sell alcohol or have alcohol at your venue, there's going to be alcohol at your venue, and there's going to be somebody that has too much, and act like a child. So
whatever you can possibly imagine someone might do, they'll do that and a little bit more.
We've got just a couple more minutes left. I want to talk just a little bit about sustainability of older festivals like ours and what it's like to start up a new festival and how they can encourage folks to do that. So you all have been around for pushing 30 years.
Yeah.
How do you keep it going?
Well, we definitely try to stay true to our mission. We always, whenever we're trying to make a decision, we always think about what the founders of the festival would think about our decision, even down to one time we told a barbecue truck that they couldn't come back and we were going to use someone local. And I have 10 founders that used to come to the festival that won't even come to the festival anymore because I got rid of their favorite barbecue truck. So, but we really just try to stay true to our mission. We involve only people who are passionate about the festival and the community. We just, we basically do whatever it takes, just like us doing bingo now. With the storm happened, then the next year COVID happened. So we were like, what are we going to do? We've got to figure out, we can't let this festival go down on our watch. And that's when we started doing the bingo. And now, we came back and we have the best festival we've ever had, with 2,000 more people there than we've ever had before. And now we're stronger than we've ever been. So it's just, keeping the faith, keeping your community at bay of what's going on and being transparent. And don't be afraid to say, I need help. When the storm happened and COVID, we really leaned on our sponsors and our county, our city, our economic development and tourism, and also our fans, like the people that had already bought tickets and the people who had already sponsored. We asked them, can you double down on us to save this festival? And they did. So, now we're sitting pretty for this year, but we know that next year something else crazy could happen. But I think as long as you stay true to your mission and be passionate about what you do, I think the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. David, how do you get to Railbird 30?
Yeah, I think we just try and improve a little bit every year. We got an awful lot right in the first year, and I think that was a product of good communication, a lot of deep dive in what was important and what we were trying to do, and partnering well. These guys have the luxury now of having this history. There is a culture that is built around their festival, and they want to be good stewards of that and maintain that and continue those traditions. When we sat down in 2017 to start planning for the inaugural Railbird Festival in 2019, it was a clean slate. and we were creating something from whole cloth. And it's like, what is this going to be? I think what was key to that was good partnerships. Obviously having Keeneland as a partner, and Keeneland has their own brand. But we were trying to marry a new event with that tradition, and then really focusing on what was important about our community. And every county in the state has things that are unique and hallmarks of that corner of Kentucky. And so I think spending a good amount of time understanding that and what it is you're trying to celebrate and share with your audience is a good place to start, and then partnering very selectively. We could have been any genre under the sun. We were very specific in how we built that. We weren't trying to duplicate an existing festival. We took guidance from what I think were kind of the granddaddies of the festival world, the Newport Jazz Festival, the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, that are iconic and also married very well with the community in which they exist. And so we worked very hard to create something that, as I've said this before, differentiated itself from other festivals by being uniquely Kentuckian and Central Kentuckian. So that whole lot of conversations, and off we went.
I think you're right. A key is really making sure you stay grounded to the core principles of the festival. And when you're creating a festival, having those principles and kind of thinking about long-term, how do we want this to reflect our community? And I think that's something that we've worked hard to do by incorporating the barbecue, because Henderson does have the best barbecue around. He's from Owensboro. So,
it's close. Geographically.
We're going to scrap after this. They can see the best barbecue around across the Green River and come over and get some. But, it's about finding that hook that grounds it to your community. And I think, like David said, every community has something where there's a hook that you can find. And like I said, Marcia, that started our festival, was doing research at the library and said, this guy was from Henderson, or spent 10 years in Henderson. And that turned into, one of the largest annual free blues festivals in the nation, So that's an important thing. I think we are pretty much out of time, Mr. President. Thank you all for allowing us to be here. I do want to tell you the American Arts and Enterprise in 2009 found that there was a 7-to-1 return on investment for government dollars spent on festivals. So where else are you going to get a 7-to-1 return? Okay, so just want to leave you with that.
Thank you.
Thank you all.